Hello and welcome to yet another YouTube video here on this channel. In today's video we are going to talk about note-taking apps and actually productivity apps in general, but mainly note-taking apps, and how not to switch from a note-taking app to another every time a new one comes to the market. And I'm going to start with talking about some philosophy behind it. Then we are going to go into some more practical tips later on in the video. As usual, there are timestamps down below, so you can jump wherever you want in the video, depending on what you need. But let's talk about the philosophy behind changing note-taking apps. So there are a couple of things. One is that you feel overwhelmed and there is a lot of information inside of your note-taking app. You have not been able to actually keep it organized, and sort of changing your note-taking app feels like a new start in some ways. The problem with it is that you will probably end up losing some of your notes or spend a lot of time doing that every single time you feel overwhelmed, and you will end up getting even more overwhelmed. That's the first thing. The second thing is the idea of a shiny new tool syndrome, that every time you get a new note-taking app, you feel like it has exactly the thing you're missing to become more productive. I'm sorry to tell you, but that isn't true at all. I've been there. I've done that. It hasn't helped. And my thoughts behind this, I have changed note-taking apps a bunch of times, especially when I first started, before I started this YouTube channel. The reason for why I know so much about all of these different apps is that I actually tried them all and went through them all. After I started this YouTube video, I have changed a bit. I haven't always been able to stick with the same note-taking app, but since around a year ago, so last summer, I've been sticking with the same apps unless I've had major life changes. And that is one of the things I want to talk about, because it is okay to change apps whenever you have major life changes that need a different set of tools. So in my case, I worked as a freelancer, I was a student, and I had a lot of small jobs and I had to organize everything myself. Then I suddenly got into my first full-time job, which changed a lot of things about how I worked and what I needed from my tools. The second major life change that happened to me is that this YouTube channel actually grew a lot faster than I thought it would, and I had to set up a way to keep all of this organized and to get my ideas down and to keep staying consistent and to be able to post the content I wanted and to be able to track my improvements. And that isn't about the metrics, but my personal improvements, how I am getting better at making videos, or if I am getting better at all. For the last couple of months, I've been in the same apps. My to-do list and my calendar app has actually been the same for a long while now. And Tooz has also been a part of my life for such a long time. But I have also fallen, after I have made this YouTube channel, fallen into the trap of changing my productivity apps, and especially my note-taking app. I still, even though I have sticked with the same amount or the same apps for a long while now, or a couple of months, more than a couple of months actually, I still spend a lot of time inside of different note-taking apps. And that is a little different for me than it will be for a lot of people out there, because note-taking apps, productivity is actually my hobby. So when I'm done at work, when I have filmed a YouTube video, when I have done everything I need to do for a day, and I just want to relax and have some fun, I open up a note-taking app, try it out, play with it, try and make it aesthetically pleasing, learn the ins and outs, and that is just how I relax and what I find fun doing, which might sound crazy for a lot of people out there, but that's who I am. So I would say that if you want to try out a lot of different note-taking apps, productivity apps, don't necessarily change out your apps every time, but take some time out of your spare time and play around with them, have some fun with them, because some of them might actually be really fun to use, and some people out there might be like me and like to spend too much time inside of productivity apps. That's just the way it is. So right now I am using four main productivity apps. So I use and this is for personal use. I won't go into work use because I cannot pick the apps myself. I just have to go with whatever the company provides. But for my to-dos, I use Things3 and I use Toos. For my calendar, I use Amy, and as my primary note taker, I use Lazy. I also take some notes in another app, and that is mainly my work notes, which goes into OneNote or Microsoft Loop because we are in the Microsoft ecosystem. But that's the apps I use. I also use AnyType, but not necessarily for note-taking. I'm using it as a space builder, which I will get back into in a future video. That is a whole other thing, more like a website than a note-taking app. So I am using AnyType as well, but for a different purpose than knowledge management or productivity, more for a connection towards this YouTube channel. That's the apps I have chosen to go with. I have made myself a promise to stick with these apps unless they disappear. Stick with them at least until the end of the year. And there are two things that might happen that will make me change apps. The first one is that one of them disappears, which is quite unlikely. The second one is that I lose my job and have to go freelance again, because then life will change. When it comes to the practical tips around how you can stick with a note-taking app, there are a couple of things you can do. The first one is to really do your research, actually spend time doing the actual research on the app, because you want to stay with an app for at least a year, probably more than that. I would say 3 to 5 years, but at least a year. So you want to actually spend a little bit of time doing the initial research when you are switching apps, because there is a cost to switching apps. So do your research and figure out that's actually the second tip, figure out whether or not the values of the company align with your values. You are going to put a lot of information out there, and probably information that is really important to you, things that matter to you, and it is really important that the company's values matches yours. So that is the second tip. The third tip is to actually, whenever you want to change a note-taking app, do a bit of reflection, because most of the times the note-taking app or the productivity app isn't the actual problem. The actual problem often lies in here with the way we are thinking, or our systems are failing us. Most of the times, at least in my personal experience, it is due to a lack of organization, mainly because we feel overwhelmed. And the second one is that we feel overwhelmed. We have too much to do in this day and age where we are available 24/7, or at least almost 24/7. Most of us do not actually turn our phones off ever. It is so easy to have a lot of commitments, to have a lot of things to do, to feel like you never get time for yourself, and we start feeling overwhelmed. That is probably one of the reasons I have ended up changing, and I have felt like if I just change my app, it is a blank slate, a fresh start, and everything will be okay, and I will be able to manage all of the things I'm doing. And every time I've done that, I've ended up figuring out that the problem wasn't actually any of my productivity apps. The problem was myself, and I need to look myself in the mirror and actually tackle the real problem. That is something I think some people, at least out there, will experience, and I just wanted to mention that tips as well. So that was it for today's video. I am, as I said earlier, working on something in Anytype which I will share quite soon, and I am building out a public space which I will talk more about in one of my future videos. So if you're interested in learning more about productivity apps, me and my future projects, and just in general what I call mindful productivity, which is all about productivity for happiness instead of productivity for doing more, then please do consider subscribing, and hopefully I will see you again quite soon. Thank you so much for watching.